Hello!
Yeah.
Hello, 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 and welcome. I went to reach for the power cable for the light, and it's not there. There it is.
You failed, John. You failed.
And then turn that down a little bit. Hello, and welcome to this Final Boss Fight live stream with the longest preamble going, in that we started 24 hours ago,
Yep.
and we're now just saying hello. Um,
We like to take our time.
there's a lot that goes into these, and one of the things that went into last night's stream exploding was my internet card exploding. It has now been replaced and hopefully will continue to work.
Yeah. It's been replaced and suitably threatened.
The old one is here, it knows what it did. The new one is now in there. It better
It doesn't know what it did.
it better keep doing what it's doing now, which is actually providing me with enough internet to stream until such time as I can put a plug in the back of this machine that tells it what the internet is. But we're going to stream the Stanley Parable a little bit.
The the purple Stunler.
So I don't know how much you're going to need to know of what happened last night when I played a little bit of the Stanley Parable. Because I don't know how much that's going to matter for this.
It depends.
But the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe has just come out, which is a remake with some new features of the Stanley Parable.
Yes.
And one of those new features turned out to be a big door that said, "Here are the new features." On about the second or third run through of the game, I found a new door in the office that read "New features," and I went through it and found the new feature, which was a jump circle that allowed me to jump 36 times.
In that circle.
In that circle,
Specific.
specifically only in that circle. I
And
believe
now it's run out. It's run out.
I believe shortly after you left, Sean,
Yes.
uh, that loop got to we got to a point in that loop where the narrator got very upset with the negative feedback on Steam. And he offered us the thing that apparently Steam reviews wanted, which was a skip button.
I was there for the beginning of the skip button, but I think I
You may have
left.
fallen asleep during the skip button pressing,
Well,
because I
12 hours have gone by, so
progressively each time we pressed the skip button, longer and longer passed, until such time as the room we were in fell apart from age and we were left in a endless desert.
it's a long time.
It was a long time. The narrator was no longer there.
You even killed the narrator.
We then
That's
we then started a new loop. At which point I said to Tanny, "You tell me what to do." But as we got to the room with the new features sign outside, there was a new sign made of neon lights that said new features.
well then.
And so, colour me intrigued, we went in there and the narrator announced the Stanley Parable 2.
Say what?
He didn't have any gameplay ideas yet, but he did have some features that he wanted to add. including the jump circle, to which I had already used up all of my jumps, and a button that you could press that would say your name, because that would be really interactive and immersive if you went up to a button in a video game and pressed the button and it said your name. He had only
That's
got...
heavily dependent upon what name you have, because I doubt they will have your name is Ezekiel or something like that.
Unfortunately, he had only gotten so far as to program a button that said Jim.
Which is close to you. Not quite.
So he basically needed us to pretend that we were Jim so that we could press the button and feel the immersion.
Feel the joy of having your name said.
We looked at all of these new features. He tried to cobble them together into a game and then realized that it actually needed the core concepts of the Stanley Parable to be able to fully work. So the loop restarted, but it restarted with a new title screen. The title screen being The Stanley Parable 2.
So is this game just the Stanley Parable 2?
I don't know.
This is standard Stanley Parable. Nobody knows!
It restarted with the title screen saying Stanley Parable 2. I started a new loop, but in the office now, as well as the lack of co-workers, there were two of the new features that he had suggested on adding, one of which was balloons everywhere that said, happy 12th birthday stepniece.
Okay.
And the other was a bucket that made you feel good for carrying it.
Damn good bucket.
I grabbed the bucket because he didn't let me leave the room without grabbing the bucket, but it made you feel good for carrying it. We then carried on down the non-conforming route and went to the staff room, which apparently now the bucket told me to go to the staff room.
Well, sentient buckets are always a good sign.
I then broke further rules and jumped off of the lift and landed on the walkway, but was met with a sign that said, buckets go no further, or no buckets past this point.
No, not a companion cube situation, is it?
And as I got to this point, the narrator informed me that I clearly couldn't read or didn't know what a bucket was. And I was then treated to a game of, is it a bucket? Whereupon I had to identify if things were or were not buckets.
It's just a recap show, isn't it?
It turns out a tractor is not a bucket.
What? I call bullshit on that.
But neither was the holographic projection of a bucket nor the 3D printed replica of a bucket. They were also not buckets.
I argue that a 3D printed replica of a bucket is indeed a bucket.
Following the game of Is It a Bucket, including discovering that nothing was in fact not a bucket, the narrator announced that he was going to remove everything from the game that was a bucket. And on doing so, discovered that the only things that are currently in the game that are not buckets are Stanley and the narrator himself, and everything else is a bucket.
Okay.
Whereupon he decided to restart things, putting all of the buckets back in again, but in the comforting knowledge that neither Stanley nor the narrator are buckets.
At least they have that.
We've restarted the game now, and it asked me for the time, and once I put the time in, we got to this screen where it's saying hang on, and then we've talked for about 20 minutes or 10 minutes about what happened yesterday that you haven't seen.
Well, we're hanging on currently.
So let's find out why we're hanging on. Apparently, this voiceless speech text wants to just say something.
Can I just say something? Thank you for actually setting clock both times you booted up the game. A lot of people don't take that step seriously. They just leave the clock set at 12 and call it a day. But you're actually taking the time to set the clock. I appreciate that.
I'm glad this is not a Mr. Rossetti situation.
That's how I know you care about this experience you're playing. You're paying attention. I don't even have any way of knowing if the time you're setting is correct.
Yes, you do. You're a computer. You've got a clock.
No way at all. Tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and see this screen, just set the clock to your favorite time. Go ahead, pick whatever time you want. Even if it's not the correct time, you've earned it.
Thank you, screen.
Alright, I'll let you get back to the video game now.
Have we mentioned this game is a very weird game?
Yes.
Is that obvious yet?
And anyone who's not heard of the Stanley Parable by now there's something wrong. Because
okay, so we're still on the Stanley Parable 2 title screen.
Looks like a horror game.
The Stanley Parable 2, like, basically when he was introducing the new features, he took us into like an expo hall where he was doing an investor's pitch about all these new features that were going to be added to the game. And there was a lot of like posters and things very heavily featuring this white text with the red number. And like, you know how they had the end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, like the repeating.
Yeah.
They had one that was the 2 was written around of the Stanley Parable 2 is the sequel to the Stanley Parable is the prequel to the Stanley Parable 2 is the sequel to the Stanley Parable is the prequel to the... Just written in the form of a number 2.
Sounds horrifying.
So let's find out what happens now.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company
these are
in
the
a big
balloons.
building where he was
Oh boy,
employee
balloons!
number
Hang
427.
about, balloons.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons.
I wonder if we're going to have the bucket again or not.
Orders came to him through a monitor.
Well,
at the
we'll
desk,
see.
Telling him what
This is
buttons
true.
to push, how long to push them,
After all,
and in what
everything is in the game
This is what employee 427
because everything is a
did
bucket
every
apart from
day
Stanley and the
of
narrator.
every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete
You can see the balloons are
isolation.
everywhere now.
Something was very clearly
Heckin'
wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
I just got the achievement, welcome back.
Welcome. Feel common.
Oh, and they're also working on a lever I can pull to get the unachievable test achievement. It wasn't working yesterday, so maybe we'll find that somewhere today.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
I can't find a trace of my co-workers.
Poor blimey.
There's the bucket.
Oh.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Ah, bucket.
Ah.
Where are we taking the bucket?
All is right.
This door doesn't open anymore. That, I think, was that the one that was the new features door, or was it back further that way?
I can't remember.
It's in one of these very similar corridors.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Do we do that?
Well, now here is the conundrum.
I mean, it also did give me a choice about which balloon to pick, and then picked the opposite of the one I picked. So that's why we have happy 12th birthday stepniece balloons. Let's follow the instructions this time.
If only for now. Doopy-doo, doopy-doo, go to the
Still no one was here. Stanley
Still no
needed
one's
the bucket's
there.
warmth
No
and
one's
comfort
here.
now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Come with me, Bucket.
As if you have a choice, Bucket.
Let's go find some answers. I suppose, Bucket, you might like to look in the broom closet.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket.
No!
I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here.
No,
it's
broom
supposed
closet.
to go with the other cleaning supplies.
You can't have the
Refuse,
bucket.
Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket.
My bucket.
I know how hard it must be. Given the... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
I don't remember if I've ever walked downstairs.
Well, there's some nice down steps there. Look at them going down.
What's down here? Oh, it's very
Oh, there's
red.
a nice red light.
Oh, good thing I've got this comforting bucket.
Thank goodness for the comforting bucket.
Oh! There's Stanley collectibles.
Well, there's a Stanley collectible.
There's nothing for collecting them.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these. Only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done.
There's a
You
reward
can't
for
buy this
collecting
from
them.
Canada, Stanley. God knows
There's
I've tried.
definitely
So,
not a
I
reward for
implore you
collecting
to
them.
savor each
There's a
moment when
reward.
you've come across one of these
You
beautiful
can't fool me,
figurines.
narrator.
Well, that was 2 of 6.
One.
But Stanley
Okay.
just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who
No,
knows
bucket,
what sorts of
why?
bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he
Where
felt
did my
himself
bucket
floating
go?
off the ground. Oh,
Why am I
Bucket!
floating off the
he
ground?
exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next.
All
None of
these
them were
buckets.
his. None of them
They're
were his
not my
special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore
God,
his
the
sanity.
bucket.
And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Oh. That got
This
weird.
is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Wait, what?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose,
Ooh.
got dressed, picked up her
Mariella.
bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can
What
be.
kind of fool would leave their bucket at home?
And she hugged her
This
own
is
bucket
insane.
even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Go Mariella, apparently.
Yep.
We're back here again.
Yep.
Is this the Stanley Parable 2? I'm confused.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley
don't
decided to go
know.
to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh, hey. There's a meeting today in the meeting room. Of the Figurine Finders Committee.
Well, you found at least 2 of those figurines.
Do you want to come with me, Bucket? Or... No, I'm going to leave you this time, Bucket. This filing cabinet hates Mondays.
Well, who likes Mondays? Nobody. That's who. Nobody likes Mondays.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I feel we need to go through the one on the left to see if anything's changed in the meeting room.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, yes, Sean. Something has changed in the meeting room.
What? Can you narrow it down for me?
Okay.
Large room, lots of boxes.
Somewhere but both red and blue, nearby a fireplace and a private but smelly place for an important person. Looks like 427.
There will be a reward for finding them all.
There will be cleaning of this wall. Who are you? 666. Lies. Stop kidding yourself. I want them so much. I want to go home. Weird spinning figurines. What do they want? Should we make them employees? Maybe. Why do they look like 427? Why are they floating?
Why?
How many are there? 151? 7? Squiggly line? No, 6. Can we sell them? Obviously. Apparently someone saw one in the cargo room.
Great. Now we just need to know where the cargo room is.
Also, this pie chart is the pie chart of what we know versus what we don't know yet versus what we forgot and some bonus stuff. It's good that someone's keeping track of the things we forgot.
It's good, because I wouldn't.
To whom it may concern, I managed to pick up sounds unusual to our regular office ambience or local audio sources using an array of cardioid microphones, also known as directional microphones, where a microphone will pick up sound from a particular area. Analysis of the recording allowed me to triangulate the source of the strange noises. Data shows that in all likelihood it's coming from a dark area behind a very warm place. I also picked up what looks to be the reverberance of a porcelain surface. Anyone have any leads on this? See what this slideshow says. I mean, other than thank you and good luck. How can we find them?
Bottom text.
We need to synergize our resources to ensure their retrieval. So one of them appears to be in a toilet based on the clues we have.
Interesting.
Right. Going in the broom closet again.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
There's nothing in the broom closet, Sean.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path
Oh.
to follow, just an empty broom closet. No coming to a
Lot of
staircase,
shit.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I think we found one.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Extreme bathrooms.
Extreme.
Okay, so that's one in the room that's private and very smelly.
It is.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
I couldn't possibly know that.
This is impossible. You wouldn't know that.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Well, I found another Stanley.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1?
It's behind my
Sit
head.
on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Hey.
The small the small number that goes up is behind the head. Down we go.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Sparky.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Now, the last time I did that, you blew me up with a nuke, so I'm going to escape.
Run, John.
Unless...
Run!
Do you think there's a Figley in there? No, that's not a room that's red or blue.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
I don't like the sound of that.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Yep.
This is fine. This is... I mean, this is not fine. That's a long way down. Oh well.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this
Those are
violent
much
end
larger
to
than
his
I thought
brief
they
and
were.
shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Oh dear.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws.
Who are
In a
you?
single visceral instant,
Yo, this is
Stanley
the
was
second
obliterated
narrator.
as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Does it have to? Thank you. Well, I'm gonna go this way. Oh no, that's the first game again. Oh well.
And yet it would
Yeah.
be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
This blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the two doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development, though the core layout remains almost identical to the first iteration. Buttons.
Beep.
Here are some people that maybe worked on the game.
It's safe to assume.
At this point, I don't know.
It stands to reason that people worked on the game. But whether it's them, I don't know.
Apparently we've entered a museum of the game now. In the game.
Yes, you have.
Early in development, we designed an ending where Stanley would end up in a battlefield fighting aliens. The action game would become sentient and would wage war against the narrator. Cool. Ultra Deluxe announcements. In December 2018, we announced the Ultra Deluxe version of the Stanley Parable at the Game Awards. These are the screenshots of the videos made for the announcement and the game's delay. I haven't seen that yet. When do I get the flow of cash?
Never, John. You'll never get. Or you'll get them once you've collected all the figurines.
Narrator emails. After the second trailer we sent out, we asked people to email the narrator for questions. While we had initially planned to use these further promotional materials, we never found the perfect use for them. Here are a selection of emails.
The apartment timer.
One option. One doorway to maintenance in the lounge.
Brr.
What? To confusion ending. I'm at confusion ending. I don't know.
That's every ending.
I don't know what's happening. Zending levers. These levers were originally a part of the Zending. The player would pull a lever and the narrator would describe the colour they had pulled. This screenshot depicts an early version of the ending known as the Zending. which was eventually cut and merged with another part of the story.
Yes.
The freedom ending.
Freedom.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Swoosh.
Oh. We died.
You did. Yeah, heckin' did it die.
Hey, look, I've got the memo this time for a meeting today in the meeting room.
All of his co-workers were gone.
All my
What could
co-workers
it mean?
are gone.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I think I did miss a memo. This time I'm going to take the
The
bucket.
confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Come with me, bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Bucket. Magical bucket. Bucket.
Large room, lots of boxes, and somewhere both red and blue. Large room, lots of boxes.
I know there is, at least in the original, I know there is like a storeroom. Like a big kind of warehouse kind of thing. I can't remember how you get there though.
Yeah.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Business strategy, you know, that's pointing a gun at a panda.
Stupid panda.
I have no idea where I'm going, but
Well, that's the game.
we're going there. This is where we're going. You, me, and the bucket, Sean.
Against the world.
You, me, and the elevator music. Which the narrator appears to be singing to.
Up here. Very long.
Long lift. Can't help but feel we went nowhere, Sean.
It would seem no.
Yep, same place. Same place.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket.
Thank you, Bucket.
Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
I mean, I, Stanley, have no idea that the keypad number is 2845.
But
Could be
Stanley guessed the
anything.
correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
Bucket, did you know?
Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Oh, yeah, that does make sense. Well, Bucket, let's hop in this lift.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Thank you, Bucket. You're the best, Bucket.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read,
Gracious
Mind
Bucket.
Control Facility.
Ugh.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
It's nice how the Bucket is wondering things.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as
It's okay,
Stanley
Bucket.
cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Oh. Bucket, I thought you were meant to soothe me, not the other way round.
Damn you, Bucket, you betrayed me.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Are you okay, Bucket?
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
What do you think we should do, Mr. Bucket?
But here was the proof. The heart of the
Prove
operation.
me this, Mr.
Controls
Bucket.
labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really
We
cool
believe
way,
in you,
and the
bucket.
bucket made a sassy
And
comment
Stanley's
about taking
also
down
there.
the system.
I like that the bucket and I apparently high-fived in a really cool way.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away.
Yay.
Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support. What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
No.
Even the facility
Oh,
itself
bucket,
recognized
why?
the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself.
Oh, it's
As long as
pretty
I
bad for
have my
streaming.
bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I?
Yes.
Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about
Oh.
to find out.
Oh.
No, look, you're back.
We're here again. Oh.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
the
Stanley decided
co-workers
to
are
go to
gone.
the meeting room.
What do you
Perhaps he
mean?
simply missed a memo.
Alright, we're not taking the bucket. We're not going to the meeting room.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
So I think this is the way
Yes,
to the
truly
cargo
a room worth
room.
admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all. Just to
We
spend a
shall
few
see.
eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
I mean, that's a room with a lot of boxes in.
Man, there's a lot of boxes in that room.
And
Give
so
it a
he
go.
detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
I don't see a little Stanley in here. There is a button there.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Okay, apparently I have to go left.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
Go to the right.
Never mind.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right, Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Are you sure, narrator? I want to go in there. There's not a Stanley figure.
Well, it looks like there are no Stanley figures this way.
Oh, apparently
Either
not.
that or we just didn't see it.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Oh.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Like, it wasn't that way.
When Stanley... Wait.
It what?
Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors?
No.
Did you move the story somewhere, or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Oh, dear.
Onwards to adventure, John!
Which door, though? Which door leads to adventure?
All of them lead to adventure.
Oh, okay. Which door leads to lots of boxes? Where the hell is this? This does not even make Euclidean sense.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Ah, okay.
All of his
All the
co-workers
co-workers
were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from.
I mean,
Why
there are
don't we go
definitely
back
doors
the
here
other
another
direction
day.
and see if we missed anything. Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Where are we?
Now this... Well, I'll be honest. I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so.
No.
I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
Yay.
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off. So, good job. Oh, no, I don't feel right about this at all.
I'm okay with
we
it.
both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win.
Oh.
Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
No, you don't. Okay.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
This is the Stanley Parable 2 adventure line, Sean.
Oh boy.
Now with more line. Wait, where are we going
Oh.
now?
Into here.
You see, the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa.
I lost
Hang on.
you there.
That got a bit weird back there.
Hmm?
Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know
No,
what?
I'm not sure where
I
you're
think
going
what we
either.
need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Go on the wall.
Sure,
Oh,
hope
got
this
some
isn't
adventure
copyrighted
music.
music.
Well, we'll find out eventually.
Keep an eye out for Stanley figures, because I get the feeling if there's any down here.
Cut the music. Go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Keep an eye out for Stanley figs, because I get the feeling we're not coming back here.
I do think there probably isn't
We're
one
back at the
if
office?
it's somewhere we ever go. You're not going to get back to.
No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you,
Trusted
after
you,
everything we've
Line.
been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Oh, it's lost the Stanley Parable 2 adventure line.
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Okay.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be,
Any
Stanley.
minute now,
I'm ready
we'll
for
just
it.
stop circling forever in this day.
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley,
line's back.
I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
It seems to be going the same way we are. Never mind.
It's stalking us.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted
Sure hope
reverse
nobody's
door's
getting
origin.
dizzy from this.
So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is
I'm
clearly
a
yes,
bit
then
old.
by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Hey, I found the confusion ending.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Fair.
Okay. Narrator.
Narrator is dead. There is no narrator, only Zool.
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Well, I've got the bucket for the confusion ending now.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
The employee lounge is simply the place to be. Look at this. This is the
And
employee
here it
lounge.
was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How
Yes.
insightful the bucket turned out to be.
This is better than the meeting room.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Lift, could you take us back down? Please, lift.
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
This looks like a place with lots of boxes.
I'm sure this is a perfectly stable platform to get to this Stanley figurine.
It
You're
was.
getting
Aren't
close
you
now,
happy
Stanley.
now?
You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anlarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anlarines. None of us can.
Well, I nearly just walked off of this. But there's a vent. We're here now.
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten.
I guess.
You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do.
No.
Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
It's all your fault. All your fault the same way. It's all your
All of
fault
his
that
co-workers
I'm
were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Oh,
Perhaps
where
he
do
had
we
simply
go
missed a memo.
now? I wonder if the meeting room will give us any new information.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Somewhere both red and blue.
Yes. Mm.
Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Well, it's not red and blue in the broom closet.
It's not.
That's a shame.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Maybe down?
There was the one at the bottom of the stairs, but maybe there's something in the parking garage / basement
But
area.
Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
I can't see my feet.
Why did
when I look
doors
at it.
close automatically behind him wherever he went?
That is very weird.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange.
This is particularly
I'm dreaming
strange.
about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
not okay.
Stanley began screaming.
Please,
okay.
someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Yeah.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments,
who that
she
man could be.
considered
Could
the
be
strange
anyone.
man. He was
Anyone at
obviously
all.
crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Well, that time she didn't have a bucket.
She didn't, but neither did you. So
This is true. We're somewhere different now.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Where are we now?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh, I don't know. Do we go to the left? Do we go to the right? I don't know where's red and blue.
oh no.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in
the
this
employee
incredible
lounge.
room,
Let's carry
Stanley
on.
for the first... But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Somewhere both red and blue. Damn it, narrator, you've shut the broom closet.
Coming to a staircase,
You
Stanley
can't
walked
be trusted with a
upstairs to
room
his
closet.
boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's
There's a
desk.
keypad here.
What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
I don't have the bucket for comfort this time.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Nah.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
This room is red and blue.
Yeah, it is.
Wonder if it's in here if I turn on the device. I mean, there's one way to find out. And that way is to do that thing.
And when at last he found the source of the... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
Yes.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you,
It's not up there.
about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that?
This door is open.
You'd like to know where your co-workers are?
Huh.
A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you.
One button I haven't
That
tried
timer
to
isn't a
press.
catalyst to keep the action moving along.
Oh.
It's just seconds
Doesn't
ticking
do
away
anything.
to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Oh. Well, it wasn't a figure there. Nope. No figure. I think that's a good place to call it. This stream has definitely worked.
What?
Well, I mean, the stream has worked in the sense of we streamed and it didn't die on its feet.
This is a plus.
We did die several times throughout the stream.
I don't know what you're talking about. Stanley's fine.
But, you know, the end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
I don't know what you're talking about.
is never the
Stanley
end,
is
never the
fine.
end.
He's in his office, and he's just going to go and investigate what's happening.
Maybe at some point, as the end is never the end, we'll be back to do more of this.
We have a collectible to find, so yes.
I'm gonna go over to the credits screen and we'll look at what's coming up.
Yeah.
And what's coming up is I don't know if anything's coming up tomorrow because it's a Jeff day that I don't know about.
It's a Friday.
But I do know that that on Sunday, we'll be back. Sean and I will be back, and we'll be joined by others for Rime of the Frost Maiden, as the group make their way to the neighbouring town of Targos, through the cold, cold back alleys of Icewind Dale. They're on the open road.
We're going on an adventure, bish.
On Monday, I will be back with more Minecraft Mondays as we continue our explorations of hell. Last time, we took 2 hours to find the blue landscape and the vines that we need from there. This time we just need to plant them and make a spinny machine to harvest them, and then get some lava and melt the things.
So get ready for a 4-hour stream. Well,
Please no.
get that down.
So that's Monday. On Tuesday night, I will be back with more Middle Earth: Shadow of War. I've done a lot of leveling up between the last time I streamed and now. I collected a lot of the collectibles. I've freed a lot of the outposts that I hadn't been freeing along the way. I got stabbed in the back by bad guys and stabbed several of them in the back again.
There's been a little stabbing.
There's been a lot of stabbing. There's been a lot of... I've learned how to drive people mad, which is fun.
Yay!
So that is Tuesday next week. I don't know what we're going to do Wednesday next week. It may be the Golden Tooth. It may be something like this. It may be something else. Who knows? Tune in to find out. And then hopefully next week, if Angel is feeling up to it, we will have more Knights of the Old Republic. I should check in and make sure she's feeling okay. Because I don't know. And there wasn't a stream tonight. But we stream tonight. So hey, you got to stream.
Shut.
Sort of. Anyway, I suppose we should do a raid from this weird stream. Let's do a raid.
Hey.
We're gonna do a raid at Ace Trainer Liam, who is doing some Pokemon Legends Arceus. We'll see you guys real soon. For now, so long. Bye, guys.
Toodles!